Hey everybody, Qroo here. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my own personal milestones in learning Spanish. This particular video was inspired by a question I received from one of the members of my private learning group, the Qroo Spanish Crew. He specifically asked me about milestones, like when could I understand a movie in Spanish, when could I have conversations in Spanish. And I actually thought about this for about a week, because in thinking back, about my own journey to learn Spanish, it's not like it's made up of milestones. I mean, with most things, you can have a milestone, right? If you're a runner, you'd be like, okay, when did I hit a 4-minute mile? Or when did I win a championship? But when it comes to learning language, it's very difficult to have a milestone. But I'm going to do the best I can. I know he's really interested in time frames. How long did it take me to do something? So I'm going to focus on that. So my journey to learn Spanish actually started in high school. I took Spanish in high school. Was absolutely terrible at it. Wanted to be good at it, just wasn't. It didn't make sense to me. And I was lucky to get out with a D. Fast forward several years, and I'm working as a deputy sheriff in Central Florida in a very rural county that has a lot of citrus. The next county over has strawberries. There are tens of thousands of migrant farm workers coming through, and almost all of them speak only Spanish. So I'm working as a deputy sheriff in these communities where I can't talk to anybody. I'll stop a car, I'm having trouble communicating. They're calling the police for needs like domestic issues or problems with neighbors. I'm having a lot of communication problems. So I take it upon myself to learn, and this is pre-internet, so I don't have all the cool resources that you do, like this channel or the Qroo Spanish Crew, like I talked about. It's just me and a book that I bought from the bookstore in my patrol car. And I'm reading through it, and it's just reminding me how frustrating learning Spanish was for me in high school. I'm learning these word lists, and I'm like, okay, vender, to sell, things like that. Trying to do some conjugation, but I'm not getting it. But all this time, I just can't stop going to work, right? So I'm still going to calls. I'm doing my best. I'm trying to learn a little bit. I'm going. So our time frame here, let's say the first 6 months, frustrating. Very, very slow progress. My listening comprehension, it's not great. I've learned to control conversations. Contesta sí o no, answer yes or no, things like that. But, if they're telling me what the big problem is, I'm not getting it. I'm just getting, they don't make any sense. So around the 6-month mark, something changed. I started to notice patterns in the language. And what I mean is, I'm learning Spanish because I have to be able to have conversations with people. I'm showing up face to face with people and doing my best. In order to do that, I had to find a way to, use the little bit of Spanish I had, but be able to use it faster, so I didn't go, hold on, quiero. So I started to think of Spanish as like little mini patterns that I could pop together. Maybe I have a sentence starter to kind of slow things down, bueno. En cuanto a lo que dijiste, in reference to what you said, and it just gave my brain time to think. And then I'm using some other patterns where I already know the first verb's conjugated, and I can pop in unconjugated verbs, say whatever I want. And I can do this in real time. So after that 6-month mark, I'm getting exponentially better at Spanish. I'm noticing the difference. And since I'm having longer conversations with people, my listening comprehension's getting better too. I'm really understanding them. Now, not everything, but I'm getting more and more. And that's why when it comes to listening comprehension, it's very difficult to give yourself a milestone, because it's not like you go from not understanding them to full comprehension. It's gradual. And sometimes it's hard to even gauge on your own if you're getting better, unless you go back, and have something to gauge it off of. For example, over in my group, I have some stories, which are listening comprehension stories. And I encourage people, especially if they had trouble with them, to come back a month or two later and listen to the same one again and see if they're doing better. And normally the result is, yes, they are better. And now they've had something to gauge it off of. But an actual milestone, that's tough. But 6 months to a year, I'm getting better. Around the 9-month, 10-month, close to the end of that year, I discovered something that made my Spanish get much, much better, much, much faster. And it was this. Well, not this book. It was a long time ago. It was an earlier version of this book. It was the second edition of A New Reference Grammar of Modern Spanish. Very, very catchy title. This is the 6th edition. Yes, I still have this, the latest version, because it is such a fantastic guide. Now, keep in mind that I was getting better at Spanish because I was recognizing patterns on my own. Well, all grammar is a collection of every pattern there is. Everything is in here. I don't have to just try to figure them out. They're here. And this is a book full of aha moments. I don't care if you're beginner, intermediate, advanced. There's something in here. And it's broken down in a way that just made it so easy. So this is in my car, and I'm, reading through in between calls, and I'll see something. I'm like, wow, I did not know that. And I can work it into my Spanish and work it into my Spanish. So this was something that just helped propel it. Now, if you're interested in this book, in the latest version, I'll put an affiliate link to it in the description section if you're interested. When you use an affiliate link, it helps out the channel. It doesn't cost you a dime. Just thought I'd throw that out there. So in addition to that, I'm working on my listening comprehension because I know that's a tough part, right? That's tough for everybody. So at that time, I'm listening to AM radio in the patrol car. It's pre-internet, right? And there's a Mexican station, local station, and there's a lot of talk on it, which actually helped me more than music. Also, between calls for service, again, I'm working in these communities where people don't speak a lot of English. I'll stop by stores, bakeries, different things like that, get to know the locals, have some small talk, and then try to get better. Another thing I was doing at that time was reading novels in Spanish. And you're like, wow, Paul, at a year you can read a novel? No, not very well. When I say read a novel, I would get a novel, and I would go very slowly. I'd really pay attention to the sentence. In fact, before bed, I try to do some reading. I might get a paragraph done. Because I'm like, look at that, or look at that little sentence starter. I like that. Let me put that on my word list. Oh, I can work that into my Spanish at work. And since I'm reading novels, I'm actually learning vocabulary that has nothing to do with law enforcement, but it still, can use the same patterns that I'm talking about. Now, if you're like, Paul, I love this patterns approach. How do I learn this? Well, this is the way I teach. So just watch my videos and you'll learn the patterns approach. I actually have a video dedicated to explain patterns and give you a better idea of what I mean by them. I'll put a link to that in the description section of this one too. So now we're going into our second year, right? In my second year, my Spanish is exponentially getting better, but I'm pushing myself. My goal was to be just a little bit better at Spanish than I was the day before. Because if you start to focus on how much you don't know, a language is a huge topic. You're going to get discouraged. If you're going to be like, it's so far to go. If you're just like, okay, I just want to be a little bit better at it than the day before. And you look back, you've come a long way. So that was always the way I approached Spanish. So let's get back to our time frame. Let's say by the end of that second year, I am much better at Spanish. I'm actually able to conduct complex investigations entirely in Spanish. And my translations are standing up to the scrutiny of defense attorneys and judges. Now that's saying something. I'm really proud about that. As far as my listening comprehension is concerned, beyond that 2-year mark, I wasn't having any difficulty understanding people. I was having conversations every single day, all during the day, and I was understanding everything people were telling me. Well, let me clarify that. I was understanding everything they said if they were from Mexico in particular, because I was so accustomed to that Spanish, to listening to it. I could translate on the phone. I didn't have to really focus on people as soon as they started to speak. Even if they were drunk, I was understanding them. But occasionally I would get called to translate for someone who was from Cuba or the Dominican Republic, and that was not easy for me. Suddenly, my listening comprehension was much less. I had to really focus because they're dropping letters. And those translations were more difficult for me. I had to spend more time and be like, I'm sorry, what was that? What was that? And clarify things. And I will tell you that your listening comprehension will vary depending on which Spanish you're listening to. That's why I always tell people, choose a country and then try to listen to that Spanish as much as possible, and your listening comprehension is going to get better much faster. It's kind of like, I've spoken English my whole life. And I was over in Europe and sitting next to a guy at a pub, and he was from Scotland, and I was getting like 60% of what that guy was saying. And I think he was speaking English. As far as watching movies and television shows in Spanish, I didn't watch a lot of them back then just because it wasn't as easy to see them. I didn't have like a Spanish package or anything on my television. Like I said, I would listen to the radio, to talk radio. I understood all of that. So I'd say my listening comprehension was pretty strong after year 2. And then I'm sure it just continually got better, but there's no real milestone in there. Now, I know that time frame seems really short. It might frustrate folks who are watching this and be like, oh, I'm still in this 4 or 5 years and I don't have really good listening comprehension. Don't beat yourself up. It takes time, and it's going to depend on how much exposure you have with the language. In my case, I really think it was just the perfect combination of everything. I had this really strong need to learn. I was being pushed into situations where I had to be able to speak Spanish on a regular basis over and over, which kept me motivated. It also helped me work on that listening comprehension. It helped me push past barriers. For example, I'd go to a call, get so far in an investigation, then be like, oh, I didn't know how to say this. I'd go look, next time that didn't happen. And this is going on every single day. It's like I'm in a total immersion Spanish program. Once I could speak Spanish really well, I'm being called upon by my supervisors to do, say, press conferences. Oh, can you go talk to Univision out of Tampa? Or, hey, can you go to this function for the Mexican consulate out of Orlando and represent our agency? And then I find myself doing question answers, with migrants about legal issues in Spanish. In a situation like that, anyone is going to get better at Spanish quickly. If that's not your situation, then don't be so hard on yourself. I mean, you're studying, you have other things going on in your life. Maybe you don't have that level of exposure or need. It's going to be a slower process. But it's not an impossible process. But you can create a situation that helps you get better faster. And one way to do that is to put that sense of urgency on yourself and to be like, okay, I'm going to make a self-promise. I'm going to spend so much time every single day studying this, and I'm going to push myself. It's not like I'm just going to sit on Duolingo and I'm, the gamification, ding, ding, I'm doing great. No, I'm really going to push myself to be better and better at this language. And one way I recommend you do that is to learn the patterns that I teach on this channel, because that's a great way to learn how to make your own sentences. The other thing you have to do is to practice speaking and somebody speak back. That's going to help you with that listening comprehension. If you don't have anybody to do that with, use one of those AI tutors online. Speaking of AI tutors, I've spent the last couple months practicing with a lot of different kinds, just checking them out because I got a video coming up on it. And they are not all the same. I really recommend you use LANGUA for so many different reasons I'm going to explain in an upcoming video. I do have an affiliate link for them because I think they're outstanding. It's in the description section. If you decide to try them out, if you click my link and make your account before downloading their app, it just helps me out. All right? It's worth it. They're fantastic. All right, let me get back on track. So you're practicing and you want to have that exposure to the language all the time, which means what? Well, now with YouTube, you could just play videos in Spanish all day. Play the news. You want to learn how to install something in your house? Watch it in Spanish. Just immerse yourself as much as possible. Now, one recommendation I have for people is to set a time frame for this 100% effort thing you're going to do so it doesn't turn into a death march. Say 30 days, because a week is too short. 30 days, I'm going to do 100%. I'm going to be learning the patterns. I'm going to be making sentences. I'm going to push myself. I'm going to expose myself to language as much as possible. Spanish is always going to be around me. I'm going to have multiple conversations with the Spanish-speaking AI or a tutor a day to get me up to that level. And not simple conversations. No, we're going to make them complex. 30 days. At the end of those 30 days, if you've been honest with yourself and really pushed yourself, I'm sure you are going to see real progress. And that progress is going to help keep you motivated to keep pushing yourself until you reach your Spanish-speaking goals. All right? Well, that's the end of the video. I hope you found it informative. If you did, just do me a favor and give it a thumbs up. And until next time, hasta luego.